Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Corinth. Today, I am with Bob Hart. Bob, welcome. We're going to be talking about our charter amendment. So this year, nobody on City Council had somebody that was contesting a seat. So we're not going to have a City Council election this May. But what we are going to have are two very important charter amendments that can be confusing without some extra explanation. And we think that they are going to be excellent for the city as we look forward. And so to dig into the details, Bob, our first one, 3-year terms for city council members.
Yes. Currently our council members are elected for 2-year terms. And so every year we have 3 council members elected for a 2-year term. One of the things that we observe, and this is not just in Corinth, but this is generally watching, is that it really takes 2 years to really get a real good grasp or a handle and a full understanding of the expectations and the roles of being a city council member. And it's really in about that 3rd year that an individual really has an opportunity to make some real strong contributions. Not that they don't the first 2 years, but that 3rd year, that full understanding really enhances that experience. And so the recommendation of the council, and based on that discussion and experiences, this is partly from other cities and partly from research, is to ask voters to consider converting to 3-year terms. And that way we would have 2 council members elected every year. So we always have an election every year. And that's important based on the conversation from within the council. But that way an individual, once they're elected to the council, can be comfortable in getting a good, full understanding on those first couple of years. So in that 3rd year, they're really making a full contribution to their service on the council.
And one of the important things that I think is especially important for citizens to understand, because I did not fully grasp it when I was first elected. The way the council is set up is amazing, but without being able to promote something that you want amongst the other council members, nothing gets passed, right? So it's not, so the first thing is you have to understand what everything means. And so you spend the first year Googling a lot, like what the heck does this mean? And then the second year is, of course, building consensus and building trust amongst the rest of the council so that when your 3rd and 4th and 5th year come around, you're actually able to get things passed that are good for the city.
That's right. And I would expand beyond just the Googling and understanding. A lot of it's understanding what's going on with state law, what's going on within the region. So here in Corinth, we can talk about it, but we're also talking about how do you coordinate with the other lake cities? How do you coordinate with Denton or with Louisville or Denton County? And so it's just, we're not an island by ourselves. So it's that coordination. And I think that's what adds to some of the complexity of in that area. The other element is we're talking about direct service delivery. So, you're looking certainly at policy, but then how that translates into service delivery. And I think that's what makes a council member role a little more difficult than some of the other elected positions. That I think it's important for is that a council role is a little more difficult because we're talking about service delivery in addition to policy.
Right.
So some of the policies you adopt translates into maybe a policing strategy, or it might be how streets are built or how water service is delivered. So there are implications that are very immediate, and you get immediate feedback from your friends and neighbors about what you're doing.
And some of them are definitely immediate, and those are easier. Some of them, though, are on 10, 20-year horizons. Right. And so having a good first term that's 3 years, I think is vital.
It certainly appears that way. And I think the research and in talking with other cities that have moved in this direction would certainly lend credence and support for that position. So, yeah, I think that is a very valid point.
So let's back up one more step to when you were talking about thinking of this position outside of the borders of Corinth. So one of our strategic plan items is regional cooperation. And so on a 2-year basis, the number of times that you can interface with a Denton County official or some of the mayors and councils in the other 4 cities or even Denton are pretty limited. So that third year gives you an extra year of going to events and meeting these folks. Because as we've seen lately, the amount of participation from these individuals into the city of Corinth has become substantial. And so to retain that trust and to retain those relationships, a 3-year term is going to become vital.
I think it will. I think you'll be far more effective over
Right.
time. Yeah, and in that sense, yes, because it takes time to build relationships and understand what's happening within the region so that we can begin to match up what Corinth is doing versus what they're doing. And I think it helps Corinth influence what goes on in the region or in the county. But the coordination, I think, improves the quality of services that we
Sure.
ultimately have.
So 2 other things to talk about, Bob, as far as this process. The first is that the city council can't just say, okay, we're elected, now we're going to run, now we're going to be here for 3 years. We have to be elected to a 3-year term. And so there is going to be a rollout process that's going to take us through 2025. What does that look like?
Well, so with the 3 council members that are up this year are in for 2-year terms. So that in 2023, a year from now, 2 council members would be elected for a 3-year term. 1 council member would be elected for a 2-year term. And then in 2024, similar kind of process. 2 council members are elected for a 3-year term. 1 council member then is elected for a 1-year term. And so by the time we get to 2025, then 2 people are elected on 3-year terms. And the ballot's going to have language like that that's a little confusing because it does lay out the pattern, and it's all done by place.
Sure.
But you have to have a smooth transition to accomplish
So
that.
the ballot language, as best I understand, is constrained by state law.
Yes.
So we can't just write anything we want on the ballot. It's got to be approved. And a lot of times that language can be confusing, which is why we're doing this.
Yes, the language is ultimately approved by the Secretary of State's office,
Right.
For the state of Texas, and it has to meet the legal test for laying out the material. If you read it carefully, I think it does make sense, but you've got to recognize initially that there are 5 places in a mayor's position, and so you have to identify who gets a 2-year or a 3-year or a 1-year term as you roll this forward. And I think this is an interesting conversation where we laid it out and just took a kind of very, very systematic approach with the mayor in place 5 and just moved our way through the 6 positions. But you have to transition it some way, and that was kind of an easy way to do it.
So one of us drew a short straw and will be running twice in a year, essentially.
Yes.
And so if it's unopposed, that's not going to be a problem. If it's opposed, of course, that's an expensive proposition for that individual. But that's the way it goes.
Yes.
We think having 2 people run every single year for 3-year terms is what's going to be best for Corinth going forward in the future.
Yes.
Bob, we've got we've got another charter amendment, and that is the way that the city of Corinth handles the mayor pro tem position. So do you want to give us some background on how that's currently being handled and then what our proposed change is going to be?
Yes. The mayor pro tem is kind of like the assistant mayor. And so it's identifying an individual that will serve in place of the mayor in his or her absence. It doesn't happen very often, but it could be, with the meetings, you can be gone or be ill. So you need some mechanism to have someone to step in and perform that role. Most cities have that reference to that position in their charter. Corinth does not. And so what we have done is by resolution, the mayor appoints a mayor pro tem for the year, and the council ratifies that. The proposal is to go ahead and formally create the position of mayor pro tem within the charter, but leave it to the council to establish the process whereby the mayor pro tem would be elected. So that could actually change going forward. It was just to be an action by the city council to determine that election process. It could be by appointment by the mayor. It could be by having the council vote to who the mayor pro tem would be, or in some cities will actually have the most senior member on the council serve as mayor pro tem. But in all of the cases, all we're recommending in this charter of election is to create the position of mayor pro tem and then leave it to the city council to identify the method in which the position would be filled.
So at best, this charter amendment is administrative.
Yes, but I think it is an important administrative function because you do need to have a backup or an assistant, if you will, for the smooth operation of the council.
Of course. So, Bob, I know the dates for voting for these charter elections have been posted on social media, but as a reminder, do you want to run through a couple of those dates with us?
Yes. The election date itself is on Saturday, May the 7th. We're always the first Saturday in May. The early voting will begin on Monday of April the 25th and will run through Tuesday, May 3rd. And so that April 25th to May 3rd will be early voting, and it'll be here at City Hall.
Okay. So as a challenge to those that call Corinth home, historically, the turnout for our votes are a little low. So we have about 18, maybe 19,000 registered voters in Corinth. In any given election season, we have about 1,000 people that show up to vote, which means that your single vote is worth about 18 or 19 votes. What I'm challenging everybody that's watching this is let's see if we can't hit 2,000. Seems pretty easy, right?
It should be.
It should be. Let's get 2,000 people out. Let's vote on these important charter amendments that will make Corinth a much healthier city as we move forward. And as always, leave a comment about what you would like us to do future videos on. And Bob, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And join us next time for another episode of Let's Talk Corinth.